Right, so we're back, and the fifth part of this thing, I really never anticipated that we will be doing 5 one-hour hangouts just to get this stuff working. Now we are in a state where we have a working application, the database connections are working, we have one model, we have a user, we've added a view randomly just to list the instances of a database of users that are in the database, and that is working. We wrote some that's totally like without, it's pointless, that cucumber test, right? But the stuff that we wrote for in our spec about testing the user model is actually relevant. These gonna stick around. We will remove the other ones later on, but now I will actually demonstrate this acceptance unit test cycle, this outside in approach to designing your features and stuff like that. And you do not have to code with me. And I would actually, I would actually want to say, do not code when I'm giving this talk. But what I would like you to do is to have a pen and a paper and take notes, basically, right? And I prefer if you take notes with your hand rather than on your computer, because if I hear you or see you type on your keyboard, then I will think that you're coding, and that's a mistake, right? So do not code while I'm giving this talk. All right, good stuff. We will develop a feature, a very small feature, using the acceptance unit test cycle. Okay, and generally speaking, the acceptance part of the acceptance unit test cycle is all the tests that we write in Cucumber, and the unit test in the acceptance unit test cycle is, of course, the tests that we write in OSPEC, right? So in the acceptance tests, we are checking if the interactions that the user performs with our application yields the unexpected result, right? And there are some things, and I will showcase that we can do in the beginning when we start to develop a feature that at some point will not be possible because we do not have the relevant classes or database tables and stuff like that, So we do acceptance tests first to a certain point where we hit our wall. Basically, there's nothing we can do unless we go down and start adding our units, right? And of course, the way we add units is test driven. So we write a spec for it first, then we add implementation, and until that goes green. And once our unit tests are green, we go back to the acceptance test level and start running our acceptance test again and see if we get another error message, basically. And I will demonstrate that for you now, how we can do that. Also with a fairly simple feature. We will be listing a few products, a few dishes on a page, basically, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So let me go to screen share first. And here we are. Well, we can get this out of the way. And let's just pull up our terminal. So I'm just going to check out my master branch. Where the status? Right, git what is this? Git diff. Right. Yes, of course. So git ci am code cleaning, and now just do git checkout master, and now we're just gonna do git merge unfuck. Right, and I'm just gonna do bundle. And I'm just going to do RSpec just to check out if everything is working for me on my master branch before I create a new branch that is working. So Cucumber. Right, it's all working for me. Good stuff. now. So now I can do git checkout minus. So note that I am on master, and now I'm checking out a new branch and call it list dishes. List dishes. Good. So now I'm on a new feature branch, and I'm gonna create a new file in my features folder called list dishes list dishes on page, on landing page, perhaps. Let's say that it's on landing page, and that's going to be a feature file. So I just add dot feature on it, right? Okay. So for you guys have a lot of stuff on your waffle boards and your ZenHub boards, and etc., etc. I don't have that because I'm performing this demo. So if I were you, I would go into, of course, my waffle and choose a story to work on. Of course, name my branch accordingly about what it does and what this branch is about, what this feature is about, and then start by grabbing that user story somehow from your project management board, right? Whatever tool you're using. I don't have that for the purpose of this demo, so I will just assume here that I am working on where is my thing? There it is. Yes. So I will assume that I'm working on a story that is about listing dishes, right? So everything starts with an acceptance test. Okay, so everything starts with Cucumber. Feature list dishes on landing page, and underneath I would say as consumer, for instance, or end user or visitor, in order to be able to make a choice on what dish to order. For instance, I would like to see a list of available dishes as soon as I get to the site, right? Right. This is in my opinion, a very important thing. You get to the site, you're there to buy some food, so you want to at least get an idea of what you can order, like what sort of a restaurant is this? Is it tasty? Do I want to eat this stuff, right? So in the first iteration, there's many things you can do to lure a customer to buy your food, right? But let's say that in the first iteration, we want to show him just a list of stuff like the title, a little bit of a description, and for instance, a price tag, right? That could be probably interesting, right? So now you can say that, okay, I'm looking for Chinese food, but these guys only sell pizza, so that's a no-go, right? Or I'm looking for cheap food, and these guys are extremely expensive. That's also a no-go, right? But we want to show him some stuff that makes his choice easier, basically, for in order to actually buy stuff, and we can make some money. So okay, so we have a user story, so we can build some scenarios. Now in this case, the scenario will be very simple. Visitor sees see a list of dishes on the page, right? So that's the scenario title, kind of. So we can have to do three things, right? As again, we need to put the application in a certain state. We need to interact with the application, and we need to make an assertion that what the user actually sees on the page, right? So what would be could anybody tell me what do we need in order to actually display some dishes on the landing site, on the landing page?
Il database with dishes. to fetch information from, and
Right.
from the front end, like some kind of HTML code that display that.
Right. So we probably need some dishes in the database, right? Okay. So we use the given keyword, right? Given there is a dish. Do we want to name this dish like called what? Pizza? Do we want to say pizza? Do we want to sell that? Okay, pizza. With a price of how much can a pizza cost? £50, right? And there's in the system, right? We want to sell a pizza to start with, for instance. Okay, what else can we do? Do we want to have one, or do we have more than one dishes? The conversation becomes much easier if I actually hear what you're saying.
Yeah, let's have at least 2 or 3 dishes, but yeah, I don't want to be the only one talking, guys, please.
So we want to have, this is a good one actually. So we want to have pizza, and I don't need this given right. So, and I want to have, I can make use of the and keyword. We're going to sell some kebab with a price of 75. We can do another and. There is a dish called, I don't know, hamburger, right, with a price of 45, right. Note that we introduced a new keyword saying and. So generally speaking, you use given, and then and substitutes. If you want to do several things to put the application in a state, you can use the and command. You could use given, given, but that doesn't look good. Okay, so the and keyword is much better to use. Okay, it means the same thing. All right, and when I visit the site, for instance, right, then I would like to see pizza, right? And I would like to see kebab, and so on, right? It could be a fairly okay hamburger for it to start with, right? So we have 3 dishes.
You have another typo there. I see it. The side.
Oh, sorry. There you go. Thank you. Right. So that's pretty cool, right? So let's start with this. Let's create those step definitions, and I can choose to create this in the basic steps file that I already have, or I can create a new file. For instance, landing page steps. It doesn't matter. Cucumber will load all of these step definitions, so that's perfectly fine to create to host them. Okay, and now I need to make this a little smaller and move myself out of the way. Now you see here, there is we got this regex from Cucumber saying that there is a dish called something, right? And with the price of something, right? And automatically the scaffold gives us two arguments, or 2 variables here, right? So I'm going to call this product name, and the second one will be price, right? Okay. And now I'm going to say something like, now I have to make decisions, right? What do I want this what do I want this to happen? Well, I would say that we need to have a product table in the database, and I want to create that with a name of something, right? Probably whatever we stored in product name, and the price should be whatever we stored in price, but we store that as an integer or float. It depends if you want to have, deal with öre or cents or what have you. I would probably store that as an integer, right? Okay. Before we run this, we want to continue to create some other step definitions. Note that, you see, I'm using the same step definition 3 times, but they are all generic, right? So it's the same step def, but the only change here is the product name and the price. Okay, so the same step definition will be reused 3 times in this case, right? So, but I want to visit the page, so I create a step definition for that, and here I'm just going to say visit. And that's gonna be the landing page. So just slash. That's the first page the browser will render for us. And the third step definition that we're gonna use in this scenario, we can create that here. In the basic steps, and we just do an expectation here. So we just do expect page dot to have content. Okay, have content is a capybara matcher. Before you saw me use have CSS, but have content is just it only looks for text. Okay. So we can use probably, content. Right, like this. Okay, so, and now if we go back to our scenario, we can see that all of these step definitions are defined, and we can reuse that. So we are reusing this first one 3 times altogether. We are making an assertion here on line 11 with a then, and then we're using the and command again, and we're reusing the same step definition, basically. Okay, so what do you guys think will happen now when I run the scenario? Any ideas?
There is no database. There is no data, so you won't find anything.
There is no database. There is no. What is not in the? I have a database already.
No, I mean, we didn't put any information about the dishes, the pizza, the kebab, or the hamburger.
Well, that's what we're doing here. That's what we try to do here. That's not the error we will be getting.
Sure.
But the database do not have any information about product table in the database. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So let's run this. We're gonna run Cucumber, and I really want you to get into the habit of actually just running the scenario that you are working on, and not everything, because it's much better for you. Just run the one that you're specifically working on in your development process, and then when you think you're done, you run the entire thing. Okay. So I'm getting errors here. And what is relevant here?
The initialized constant products.
Right, product, singular. Right. So the constants name are always in singular. The database table are in plural. Okay. That is very important. So we don't have anything in the database about product. And this is the wall I was talking about. We can write a scenario as we did, but we cannot, and we can create, you know, we can prepare those step definitions and all, but there's no way we can actually execute that, because the database the application does not know what product is, basically. So now I want you to pay attention and take this as a note. We need to, at this point, we need to step down and start thinking about the models, about the classes, right? So we need to work with specs, basically. And there is with RSpec for a while, and there is a generator in your that allows you to create specs in using the generator, so you don't have to create those files yourself. So let's try that one. Break generate spec, and then we're going to say name equals product, if that works. So we're going to generate a spec for a product model. What? Yes, of course, that's what I meant. I think that's what I meant. Right. So now in our spec folder, we have this new spec created for us. Generators are really good because then that saves time. We don't have to write so much code. And what would we need? What do we know at this point about the product model? We, the developers, we know quite a few things, actually, because we already kind of described that here, that the product should have, you know, a name and a price. We made that decision. That's good to have. Could write a spec for it. For instance, it is expected to have DB column. What was the name, right? Is expected to have DB. Yeah, I think it's right. And we copy this one. And the second one was price, right? Right. G is expected to. Does that look good? Is expected to, yeah. All right. So let's have a go at that. And this will, of course, fail for us. So if we run RSpec spec product spec, this should fail, and we want to see that. Well, what is the problem for us here? There is no such model, basically. We are getting an error because that is not available to us. So we're going to create a model. So we're going to generate a model, and we're going to call it product. Break generate model product. Right. And now here in our models, in our models folder, we can see that we have the product here now. And it tells us, the generator tells us that we need to create a migration. So let's create that. So we just do rake generate migration name product, and we can do some other stuff. Let's see, before we run that, let's just check out the rake file, or perhaps the README file. Generate model user. Okay, so it's going to be create product like this.
A typo.
Right. Where?
Migraten.
Oh yeah. There we go. Oh my God, sorry. Okay, third, tredje gången gillt. Okay, there we go. Migration, name, create product. Okay, so now we created a migration, and this means that we need to go into our DB folder in the migrate subfolder, and we can see that there is a create product migration, right? And now we need to do that somehow, right? So this is just an empty migration that will not help us in any way. We need to do create table, right? And what table we want to do we want to create? We want to create a table called products. Right, and what else do we do there? Right, and we do a do, and we need to do this t, and we do t string. What was that? Yeah, name, and the second one will be t integer. Right, integer, or is it number? Number price. Number, is it integer? Oh, it's integer, actually. Right, so we want to have two attributes on that. One we want to have a name and a price, right? And what is the name of the command that we were all that we all had to run in order to migrate the database? We just created a new migration, so we need to run rake db migrate. Okay, but that's not enough, right?
Is it the rack env?
Right. So we need to do rack env equals test rake db migrate.
No need for
So,
rake.
Okay, so for every migration that we're adding to the database, whatever it is, we need to run rake db migrate, and for the test environment, we need to run rackenv test rake db migrate. That's really important. So we do that, and that adds stuff to our database. And now, if I do our spec product spec, we can see if our tests are not passing. They are passing at the moment, right? And this is interesting now. Why did we start with RSpec in the first place right now? Because our cucumber tests were failing, right? Right. So now let's see what happens now that there is a product table in our database. Let's run this cucumber again and see what's gonna happen. Well, all of the sudden, those 3 steps are passing. I mean, the error we were getting before was that there was no constant product. The system just simply didn't know what a product was. So we abandoned cucumber for a while. We went back, or went to the lower level RSpec unit tests. We fixed that. We created some specs for a product model. We created a model and created a database migration, and went through all of these steps, made sure that our specs were passing, and now we are going back to the cucumber test, running it, and we are getting a different output, right? Because now whatever was hindering cucumber from moving forward is no longer in place, but we are actually seeing that stuff. Does that make sense to you guys? Good. All right, but we're still not there, because we are somewhere like we're not seeing pizza. We're not seeing that stuff, right? So let's fix that. Let's see if we can go to the controllers, to the AUT controller, and our domain, we have the root path, and there is a welcome template being rendered, right? So let's have a look at the welcome template, and it just say welcome to my site, right? So that's not what we want to see. So let's just here. Let's do something here. Let's say that we want to grab, ask the database about all the products that we have, right? So we just do product.all, right? And then we render the welcome template. But before we run the test, we want to actually do the same thing here as we did before. It's very simple. We do product.each products. Sorry. Remember the collection. A collection. If a variable holds more than one object, we should name it in plural, right? So it's products in this case, right? So we just do, and then we do product. And you've seen this done before, so you know what time it is, right, people? Nothing fancy about this. Here we are, and basically we just do like a paragraph, an empty paragraph, and we just do a string into Ruby injection, and we just say product. And what do we want to display? What part of the product are we interested in?
Name.
What attributes? Once again?
Name, right?
Name, right. And what other attributes are there?
Price.
Right. And we want to show the name, right? Because that's what our test is looking for, right? Good. So it's displaying product name. Let's see if our tests are passing. Right. Okay. So now it passed. Okay. So this is a very, very basic introduction to the acceptance unit test cycle. This is what the name implies. We start with an acceptance test. We tell the story, and during that, or during the time when we run those scenarios, we will end up in a situation quite often, not always, but like 90% of the time, the test is complaining that some of the stuff that we want to create is simply not there, right? We have to make some decisions about objects and attributes and stuff like that. And it's your job as a developer, like, perhaps we should have some products in the database. So just, okay, let's create like a class, at least imaginary, and just assume that the class exists. A product class, and let's do create on it, and it should have a name, and it should have a price, and boom, the application complains that there is no such class. And that's when you hit the RSpec part of your testing strategy, and you start writing specs for it, and you keep running them, of course, because we want to see the tests fail before you write your implementation code and make them go green. That's why this cycle is called red-green, also red-green refactor, right? So that's really important. And once you've got that RSpec thing up and running, you head back to your Cucumber, and you run that, and hopefully, different error message that brings you one step closer to the desired outcome. All right. And in my case now, what we needed to do once the product table was being created is to hit the controller action, just to fetch that data from the database, and then hit what we refer to as the presentation layer, which is the template, and actually display that somehow on the site, right? So let's see. Could we do something else here? I assume we could. We could, of course, say well, we don't need that. We're on this one. I would like to see pizza with the price with price. Let's say, formulating these are always tricky. So we just, we do 50 kronor, for instance, right? With the price of 50 kronor, something like that. Okay, so now I'm getting like errors that that the step definition is no longer valid because I modified it. So I have to create a new one or modify mine, but it's actually simpler to create a new one. Well, sorry, wrong file. Right. So I would say, let's see, a product name. I want to see the product name. And I want to see price. And okay, so we could do something, this is no longer enough. The content is no longer enough. And just saying product name and price, that would make us have two expect statements in one single step definition, and we want to avoid that. It's not as strict as it is in RSpec, but we want to avoid having two expect statements in the same step definition. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make an assumption that on my page, the text that I want to display is like product name and price dot kroner, something like that, right? So I can just sorry about this, product name and price. So I'm going to string interpolate this like this and store this in expected output equals this. I'm going to store this in a variable, and then I'm just going to expect the page to have that expected content or output on the page, right? So this is going to be pizza dash 50 kronor, okay? And next time around it's going to be kebab 75, and then hamburger 45, I think we used, right? Okay, so if we run this now, that will of course fail for us because we haven't made the appropriate changes to the template, right? So let's do that. We want to go to the welcome ERB, and we can just basically do the same thing here. We're just gonna do this product name dash product price owner, right? We just string interpolate this. The way I'm doing this, I'm just selecting the text and pressing the hash sign, shift 3, and that automatically adds the curly brackets for me, So hopefully, if I run this now,
Don't you need to change the price for the hamburger and kebab as well?
Do I?
No, it's just said 50 crowns on everyone because you copy pasted it in.
Did it? Well, good catch. But I'm getting an error here. Pizza 50 kroner. Why would that be? What did I do here in the step definition? I will fix that, of course. Thank you for pointing that out. Where is that? Price Yeah, let's fix that first. So it's going to be 75 here, 75, and this is 45, right? But that's not the error I'm getting. I'm getting that the symbol kroner is added twice. Why would that be added twice? Oh, okay, yeah. It's my way, my bad. In the step definition, I need to change that. Right, like this. It was already passed in from the test, so I don't need to add that twice. So now if we run this, it should pass for us. Right. So it's actually showing now. So we could just, for the sake of it, add another thing, just say then show me the page. We can actually see that happening. Now I want you to understand that the show me the page command does not load CSS. So even if we have some CSS application, this capybara function does not load that. So it will always look without any styling, but this is what we see here. And here comes the tricky part, people. Well, there's a lot of tricky parts. What if I would do shotgun here? Will I see those pizzas and hamburgers, or will I not see them?
No, because you didn't create any kind of content, no? Like for it, like there is no to display anything basically anyway.
What do you mean? Well, hold on a second. Now, of course, there is HTML code.
Where?
It's right here.
Yeah, in welcome, sure. Welcome product price. I don't know.
We just saw that happen in the test. In a test, we rendered that page and it was there. And the question now is, if I fire up the server, will that pizza, the kebab and the hamburger that we are creating here in this step definition, will we see them on the site when we fire up our local server? Remember what I said about the database cleaner, people?
Oh yeah, so you're creating it, but it's being deleted as the tests when they're over. You delete it again.
Right.
So it doesn't exist.
Right. So what is the answer to my question then?
You have to create the products. Or else.
So my question is formulated like this: will I see the pizza, the kebab, and the hamburger when I fire up the server?
No, they're not there. You have to put them in. They're just there for the tests.
Right, and that is partially. It's right. I will not see them, and yes, they are there partially for the test, but also, and this is very important, that the test database and the development database are two different databases. So even if I create some stuff in my test environment, even if we didn't purge this as we do with the database cleaner gem, it would still not have been available to us when we fire up the server because of the rack environment. The environment when we fire up a server is called development. The environment when we run our tests is called, it's a low-hanging fruit, people. What is it called? The environment when we run our test is called
test.
Yes, it's called test. It's a low-hanging fruit, people. It was really easy. It's called test. And what is it called? What is the environment when we deploy to a server on Heroku or anywhere? What is the environment called then?
Development.
No.
Production.
Right, Lisa. It's called production. So we have three different environments in Sinatra, and you will notice that in Rails and some other rack-based frameworks. We have the production environment, we have the development environment, and we have the test environment. Okay. So the test database and the development database are two different things, as of course is the production database. And if you remember, we had this problem that Oliver answered, that we need to run rack-env, rakedb migrate. So what is that telling us? What are we doing when we run this command rack-env equals test rakedb migrate? Anybody?
Does it mean that you're migrating to your database for the test database?
Right. Was that what you were about to say, Sophie? Right.
Yeah.
And so what happens when we just run rakedb migrate?
It doesn't migrate to the test environment,
but rather
the development.
Right. And that was the problem, right? Do you guys remember? We were running specs and the shit hit the fan because there was no database. And all of a sudden we remember that, hey, shit, we actually need to migrate the test database. So that's why this rack-env equals test rakedb migrate is an extremely important command, because during the development process now, you will use that every time you create a new migration. And so, are we on board on that? Good stuff. Right. So, what if we want to, this is the final thing I'm going to do, because I want you to practice all of this later. What if we want to add another thing in this yada yada, what am I trying to say? Yes, to the step definition. I'm going to create a really long step definition. I will refactor this later in a separate session. But so we have a dish called something with the price of something and description of, and then we're going to paste this in of like this. Now it's going to be, so we have 3 regexes and we have another, another variable, local variable here. So description of, we're just going to remove that. And I have to modify my feature with the price of and the description of great pizza in the system. And then we just change that. Great kebab and great hamburger, right? Hamburger. We're missing an M here, right? Right. And
the A instead of E on pizza.
Right. Good. Thank you. Then I would like to see pizza with the price of that, and I would like to see great pizza, right? Pizza, and I would like to see great kebab, and I would like to see great hamburger, right? So we're adding another attribute to the product called description, and we want to set this value to great pizza in this case, right? So we want to do something like this, right? Description will be whatever we stored in that variable, right? So it's got to be description, right?
Yeah. There's an S missing before.
Where?
Description in blue, the one there, yeah.
Right. Okay. So, and what will happen now when I run this scenario? Anybody? Any idea? It's totally fine to guess. Let me give you a hint. We will get an error. But what error would that be?
Argument error.
Could be an argument error. Could be an argument error. So think about this.
Or that it can't find the description.
Right. It can't. There is no attribute of description, basically. So it's both of you were right. It's sort of argument error. Let's run this and see what it's actually called. Okay. So let's run Cucumber and this landing feature. At least in Rails, it would have gotten an error. Right. We were kind of right, both of you. Unknown attribute description for product. Okay. So how do we fix that? Well, we fix it by, we know that nothing can happen in the acceptance level, on the acceptance level. So we need to go to our product spec, and we need to just check, just write a specification and make sure that we check that there is something called the security, right? No typos, no typos, hopefully no typos. And now we go to our terminal and we run that particular product spec, and that will raise an error, of course, because there is no such thing in the database. And this is good. That's what we want to see. So we expected product to have DB column name description, but it doesn't have that database column. So now we need to do something like rake generate migration, and we're going to give it a name as we did before, and we're going to say add description to product. Right? Very descriptive. We want to add description to product, and we do that, and we we create another migration here. So you see that there's a new migration file being opened, and we need to figure out how do we add a column to a table that already exists, right? Because the products table already exists in our database. And so how do we do that? Well, it's a Google search away, probably, I hope. So let's do that. Let's Google that, and we just go to gem active record, hopefully, because that's what we use. We use active record, and we just go Rails active record. No, this, right? Rails active record, yes. And so we do, how can we do migrations? Create table, that's one thing. But can we learn more about creating tables? Let's try that. That didn't fly. So then we can say active record add column. So it's probably add column, right? Let's see if that's it. Add column to the name of the table and the column name and what it is. So let's try that. So we just do add column to products, right? And the column will be description, right? And that description is supposed to be a string, or should it be text? Well, strings are 255 characters, I think, or 50 characters, and text is 255. So this could be a little longer. Let's see if that works. Right. So we're just gonna do. What do we have to do? Rake what? We created a migration. What do we have to do? Right. And rack env should be set to what? Your participation is overwhelming, people.
Test.
Right. Good. Let's try that. If it works. And it did. And now we run RSpec again. And it works now. And now we're gonna run Cucumber. And it kind of works. Well, it works in the sense that we change the error message, right? And what is actually failing is that I want to see the great pizza description, and we of course are not displaying that yet. So we just want to change that. So let's say that we do H1 here, and then we do prod P here, and then we are actually displaying that product description. Wow. Right. On the page, right? So let's see if that works for us now. We fixed the RSpec thing. We move forward. We got an error on displaying the info, the relevant info, but now everything is showing, and this is the way it looks like right now. Okay. Do you see the point of working with acceptance test, figuring out what needs to be done in the system, how that data should be displayed to the user, etc., and then actually taking care of the classes and units and stuff in RSpec?
Yeah.
Good.
Yes.
Good. This needs to be practiced. Okay, guys. So there's no shortcuts here. You need to stay on top of these things, basically, by continuously practicing things like that. There's a lot of capybara commands that you can use, your step definitions. Again, in Gherkin, you just tell the story as if it was almost in English, right? You just say, if I do this, then this should happen, right? We're using the given and then commands, right? In your step definitions, when you go and when you try to interact with your application, you can tell the testing framework to visit certain pages. There is, for instance, a capybara command called fill in, so you can fill in form fields. You can click on things. You can click link or click button, and then the text on the link or text on the button, and that will actually click on that particular element. And there are many other matchers, right? There is a capybara cheat sheet somewhere. I don't know if we have that one in our course materials, but capybara cheat sheet. Let's see if we can find that. Yes, there is something here. There's plenty of resources on the internet, you know. So look, we can do, you know, click link, for instance, either the ID of the link or the text of the link. We can click on buttons, just say click, and that clicks on either a link or a button, because in HTML those two are two different things. Scott, are you with us?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good. Now we can fill in an input field with some value, and again, these values could be either hard-coded as strings, but you can also store that in a variable in your step definition, right? And just say that you want to fill in this value with whatever is stored in that variable. We can attach files. We can check and uncheck boxes. We can choose stuff from radio buttons or select options in a select tag, etc., etc. So there's a lot of stuff that you can use, right? Remember that we do not use .should syntax, but rather expect page syntax. So that is important. This one is a little bit outdated, but only in this regard. I think that all of the other stuff is actually working. Look, there's this now famous save an open page command that I mentioned before, etc., right? So I will just this is 8 years old. It's again, it's a little bit outdated, but it's still a good resource. So I can just link to it in Slack. You know, I think we have a similar resource in our course material somewhere, but I don't know if it's on this particular week. Right. So so it's up to you, of course, to build those scenarios. Your job initially should be to write the scenarios, you know, according to your user stories, and think about how you want to test this. If you get into some issues with creating the step definitions, well, then we will be there to help you. But telling a story is something that most people can do, right? Just thinking out that if I go to the page, I should see this and I should see that, and you know, this is a non-technical part of the challenge. So just go ahead and go crazy, go creative on this one. All right, and then slowly start to transform your steps into actionable step definitions that will actually interact with your application. And once that is up and running, it's about to create a route, a controller action, and a view. These are the three things to get the implementation going. There, as I explained to you, it feels like ages ago, but it was on Monday. Everything starts with a route, right? With a URL, and then there must be some sort of a controller action. You have to, in this case, fetch something from the database or do something to an object in the database, and you have to render a template or some HTML, right? So these are the three main steps of implementing features. Questions on all of this, people, or do you want to internalize this nice and slowly?
I have a question, but it's not really about this.
Right.
I'm just wondering, just to clarify how we actually work. We don't work on the original repo.
No.
We work on our fork, and we work
Yes.
one branch at a time. So if I work with Oliver, I create my branch, our branch, and we work together. And then, okay, I just wanted to clarify that for myself.
So just to recap that. So if you work with Oliver, Sophie, you would probably need Oliver's address to his repo, so you can add him as a remote, as we did in the Gitpong exercise, or the advanced Gitpong exercise. So you guys can swap code on your feature branch, right? And when you guys decide that you're done, or whenever, you create a pull request on the Craft Academy repository. All right? Good stuff. Any other questions?
Yeah. So basically, now you're letting us work only in the test environment for the databases, right? Like in the next phase, we will be able to move to the development and eventually to the, as you call it, the production.
Right.
Okay, so for now, basically, we are like just not playing around with it, but like creating them without making damages, to be clear, basically.
Okay. So we are not playing around. We're developing this, but so definitely, in my opinion, I don't see any reason why we in the development process would need to fire up the server. To be honest, you know, we will do that, and we can do stuff like create a seed so you can actually see stuff on your own instance of the code, right, in your own instance of the development database, and that will become relevant when we start to style the application and stuff like that, so you can see the things. And I will talk about that in a separate demo. I could show you that now, but that's going to take another 20 minutes, and I don't think you guys want to do that at the moment. But there is, just so you understand, there is a file called seeds in the database folder. Let me just find that for you. Where is that? Yeah, here. Like the seeds folder is a folder where the seeds file, sorry, is a file where you can put in like database commands, like product creates yada yada, or user create this and that, and you can seed your own database with that info, so that when you fire up your local server, you can see some data. And again, the test database and the development database are separated from each other. So when you seed the development database. Okay. But that's not really relevant for you guys today. I will show you how that is done tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Right. So pair up, nice and easy, slow, one step at a time. Do not rush this. Tell the story. Create your scenarios and start telling the story of each interaction. Okay. And we'll pick it up from there. Good stuff. Happy coding, people.